Welcome to the Grow Your Law Firm podcast, brought to you by Pilma. This podcast helps lead lawyers to more growth, profit, and freedom. Here is your legal marketing expert and host, Ken Hardison.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Grow Your Law Firm. And today we have the honor and pleasure of having Blair Warner with Finch. Thank you for being here, and welcome, Blair.
Thank you so much. Thanks. It's wonderful to be here, Ken.
So I'm in the middle of masterminds down in Key West right now. This is my day off, which I'm doing a lot of podcasts, but we've actually been talking about Finch, believe it or not. So I'm interested to find out more because I don't know that much. I know the concept of what you're about, but I don't know the details, and I want to find out the details today.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Good.
Well, one of the things that, as backgrounds, I used to be the Chief Strategy Officer of Morgan & Morgan. And
Okay.
part of that role included responsibility for their pre-suit operation, which is thousands of people running tens of thousands of cases. And I remember thinking how hard it is. Essentially, running a pre-suit operation is really hard. And you need to have processes in place. You need to have technology that's able to handle volume and allow you to be more efficient and provide better customer service and more communications and run cases faster. And there's all these things you're trying to achieve running pre-suit. And especially with all the cutting edge technology and AI tools that are now available, it's even harder to stay on top of it and really be world class at running a pre-suit operation. And I
Right.
encountered Finch when I was advising a law firm out here in California and thought, well, isn't that very smart? It's an AI native platform that can run pre-suit operations for firms whose real strategy is either in marketing and generating and volume growth, or in litigation excellence and high value inventory and working up their kind of complex litigation cases. To have a potential partner who can be the tech native pre-suit operator that allows you to scale your volume and focus on your high value files. So I got really excited about what they were building and decided to become a part of it.
Great, great. So I think that's what we want to know. So in a nutshell, it's basically a company. You work with a company, Finch, that actually goes out there and takes it from sign up. Do they actually do the sign ups, or it's
We can. So we have our own intake center. Some
uh,
firms use that, some firms want to keep that in-house. Either is totally fine.
yeah.
And we will work the file from intake or from sign up through the drafting of the demand. So we
Okay.
let the lawyers do the lawyering and negotiating the actual claims and resolving the final outcomes, but we do the rest of the entire pre-suit operation.
So you do the demand also.
Yes, we
Okay.
do.
So how often do you and does a person talk to the clients, or is it an AI agent?
And
That,
people, very
okay.
much people. So we have in-house we call them paralegals, but right, case staff, case manager equivalents. So we have in-house paralegals who do all the client communications. And our standard is we talk to our clients every 2 weeks at minimum. We let the bots do the time intensive, high handle time calls, like to the insurance companies to open claims or for medical scheduling or reaching out to providers, requesting bills and records. So we deploy technology really what I'm calling the back office. But we also have the team in-house that actually does that client touch, which is really important to pre-suit. We're not just a tech firm. We're really
Okay.
a full end-to-end pre-suit shop. It's just our staff is powered by these tools that allow them to work cases faster and handle more cases per person because they're not on hold with Geico for 3 hours waiting to open a claim. We let the bots do that.
And this is what somebody was talking about in the mastermind this week. I didn't know the answer. Nobody knew the answer because
Okay. I
uh,
hope I know the answer, Ken.
so if you're talking to a real person and they say, okay, da da da, but I really like to talk to my lawyer today.
Uh-huh.
So how do they handle it? How does the transfer? Is it a callback, or how do you handle that?
Different firms have different sort of preferences, but we end up so integrated with the law firms that we serve that the lawyer and our staff person are in the same Slack channel talking about cases and inventory, and we're flagging to each other. Here's a client escalation. Some firms want us to handle at least a first step escalation before we request the lawyer to step in. Others don't, right? So every firm has, just as they do with their in-house staff, different kind of protocols and preferences. But we end up very much in the bloodstream with that firm. We also work out of the firm's case management software.
That was my next question. So what case management companies are you able to hook up with?
Well, most of them. So the common ones were integrated with CasePeer, with FileVine, with Litify. So from the firm's perspective, all of our cases in our inventory that we're supporting for you end up rolling into the same dashboard and your same management tools in your FileVine that you're using for the rest of your inventory. So they end up looking just the same. We on our side work out of our own system because that's powered with the AI
Uh,
capabilities to do the drafting and send automated messages and things, which also are always confirmed and reviewed by a person before they're sent. So the bots don't run amok. Everything has human in the loop. But we work out our inventory out of our system. It's just our system then updates and pushes all those updates into your system. So you're not trying to watch different parts of your inventory out of different tools.
what do you find most lawyers? Because I know, just like with Pillman, there's always somebody's got, well, objections or, this really worries me or whatever. What do you see the biggest doubts or worries or questions that kind of might be holding them back to doing this? What is some of their biggest fears, I guess?
Yeah, the biggest theme that I pick up on from firms is fear over a loss of control, which I totally empathize with, right?
Yeah.
You hire the people and I don't get to hire them and choose them, and how do I know they're going to be good? And I mean, which is it's the right fear to have and it's the right questions to ask. And usually my response is, well, how much do you really control the people who work for you, right? I mean, I've hired hundreds of case managers in my life. And you try your best to pick good people and onboard them and train them and supervise them and coach them. But at the end of the day, it really requires the oversight and supervision to make sure you're getting from your team, even your internal team, what you expect of them. And
Yeah.
so I tell firms, you should think of us in the exact same way, right? We have a full pre-suit playbook, which we run through with every firm because, again, every firm's a little different. And we say, these are our SLAs, right? This is how often we're going to call clients. Here's how we're going to handle escalations. Here's how we're going to send letters of rep. Here's the template we're going to use, right? All the details and make sure that we're on the same page and then hold us accountable because our stats roll into your same dashboard. So if we're not meeting our SLAs, I mean, we will escalate it and tell you and come up with a plan of attack, but you can see that too. And so you should treat our person the same as your person and make sure they're meeting your expectations. Or if you get a client complaint or you get a one-star review, right? I mean, you should manage us in the same way you have to really manage your own staff to make sure you have control.
I was
Especially
wondering,
these days,
uh,
a lot of firms are hiring offshore VAs and things to play these roles. I mean, I think most firms have some flavor of this happening at some part of their operation. And it's like, is the benefit worth surrendering a little bit of control, realizing that at the end of the day, you still have full transparency. You see every call we make and every message we send, and you see the gaps in care and you see the bills and records, and you can see our files the same way you can see your own files. So if you're willing to, join our check-in calls and stay on top of that inventory, you should be able to performance manage us as well as you can your own people.
do you record, is all the calls to the clients, do they get recorded somewhere or is that just,
We record them. I confess I'm not totally certain if those automatically get uploaded or have to be requested, but we
okay,
do. Yeah, we do.
okay. And then this would be, I think I know the answer, but I want to make sure. So like I'm using case status or HONA because I want to know quickly if something, I want to be able to save a client if I got somebody that's kind of souring
Yeah.
up on me before they go to leave me that 1-star review.
Yes.
Uh, are you able to use that while you're still using you guys? I mean, is that in?
It's a great question. My understanding of Hona, which I'm a big fan of, I love a client app, and I find the more communication you can have and the more ways of touching your client, the better, generally speaking, is I believe Hona integrates with most case management software tools, right? So you have Hona integrated with your Litify and we integrate with your Litify, and so therefore these things should work seamlessly. I am certain my tech team would tell me that there are complexities to the APIs and how these things need to sync to each other. So I would defer to them on the details of how we make that work. But I'm sure we do that all the time.
Yeah, yeah. And I think you might because really you can just run it off of your case management system.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I think so.
Right.
I'm not a techie. I don't even know how to type, so don't ask me. I don't even know how to type. I'm just old enough.
I'm a strategy ops person. I am not a tech person. But thank God we have a very big tech team of a bunch of Stanford computer scientists who know how to do these things and have developed a bunch of really cool ways of integrating the cutting edge tools and solutions. And then we integrate that into our workflow so firms don't have to navigate that. Because that's another, I think, pain point these days is, and I've been on the firm side, when you get a weekly vendor call from somebody who's got a widget or a tool or a bot or a thing that all sounds well and good. But now you, managing partner of your law firm, are trying to evaluate these different tech vendors and there's overlapping offers and you have to figure out how they integrate with your tech stack. And I'm trying to stay on a Salesforce platform. So am I limited to the Salesforce AI tools or not? And how do I make it all work?
Right.
And we basically take over that whole problem. We're out there figuring out which AI models are best for which ones are better for voice, which ones are better for sentiment analysis, which ones are better for drafting. And this one, the Gemini tool used to be better, but now actually 11 Labs is better. And so we're swapping it out and constantly kind of evolving our deployment of these AI tools. And what you see is just files that are moving in FileVine. So I think we're trying to make the juggling and the continuous optimization of those tools easier. And we get to worry about integrating them into our workflow with our staff members versus you trying to roll out this tool and then this bot and then this app and now this extra bolt on. And I'm going to retrain 100 people at my firm to use the new thing. And then I need to make sure they're actually using it. So I'm getting the ROI of the contract I just signed. And it's a lot. It's a lot these days managing that level of tech inside of a firm.
I'm really become a true believer though in like case status and HONA. I really think what they've done is what I was doing 25 years ago, but I was doing it with human people. And
Uh-huh.
you had to call if you wanted your quarterly bonus, you had to call 95% of your clients, every 2 weeks, the first
Yep.
2 months, and then after that, every 30 days, and the lawyers had to call them every 30, 45 days. And I thought that was important because we're trying to give them a good experience so that they would refer us cases down the road. That was the idea
Definitely.
anyway. And that was even before there was Google reviews. I was trying to do that. So I think I'm just trying to ask the questions I know lawyers out there would be thinking in their head. And I think one of them, which is another thing we've been talking about, masterminds, is there a long-term contract? Is there some way I can try it for 90 days and then bail out? Because, everybody's, when you got a product, everybody's going to think theirs is the best and whatever. And I don't know. I
Of
think
course.
everything's changing so fast. Looks like you said, you're changing yourself
That's
because
right.
things change.
That's right. So we usually do a 1 year contract, but with a 30-day kind of try bailout window.
Right.
And during the pilot, what we recommend is that firms send us a mix of brand new cases so they can see how we do file opening and sending letters and opening packages and welcome calls and such. And some kind of moderate medical management cases and a couple of almost ready for demand cases. So they get a sense in that 30 days of a very compressed full life cycle of a case. And at that point, most firms know, yes, this is great. It's working as you promise. I like my paralegal. He or she is doing a good job with my clients. Let's proceed with the 1 year contract. We don't do or I haven't seen any multi-year sometimes the CMS contracts are 3 years or 5 years or kind of crazy commitments.
I know.
Ours
I
aren't
know.
usually that long. And then the only thing our pricing is based on volume. So the more cases you send to Finch, the lower the cost per case
Yeah.
becomes. So in the kind of core of the contract terms tends to be how many cases are you expecting to send in any given month,
Yeah. The
right?
more you
Also, so
send,
we have the capacity and we make sure we assign the right number of people to handle your volume.
yeah, and I think that would be the deal. So just the ballpark. I mean, I'm not holding you to this, but I've heard it can be as low as $800 or $900, and it can be as high as $1,200. And I don't
That's
know
right.
if that am I kind of close?
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, it's kind of 8.99 to 11.99 depending on how many cases you're sending.
Yeah.
I've been working on a case cost calculator tool because I found, again, being inside of firms, it's actually really hard to know what your cost per case is. So knowing if $900 is cheap or not is actually a non-trivial exercise. And most firm, I know what a fully loaded case manager and bonuses cost, but there's more to it than that. There's the office space you need and the IT equipment they need and the phone license and the FileVine license and the AI tool or, the even up demand drafting tool or whatever it is you're using. Um, and it's the supervision and the overhead. So a lot of times what I find is firms kind of professionalize or you grow beyond a certain tier is all of a sudden you find you need a person like me. You're hiring a director of case ops or a COO, and then you need a learning manager and you need a recruiter and you need this whole machine to support basically the HR and to performance manage and onboard and train and find all these people that you're managing. And I find that usual firm internal costs really are like $2,000 to $3,000 per case when you really consider, the
Everything.
10% of your director of ops and the 5% of your HR manager and the 8% of your recruiter and all of these things. But because Finch has so much tech deployed that really kind of gives a jetpack to each of these staff members, I think the cost is pretty darn hard to beat, right? If you're really kind of digging into the fully loaded costs of internal case staff, because it's hard to build this level of automation yourself. Certainly not in a cost-effective way. You end up having a bunch of really expensive tech contracts to try to sort of build a process that's as efficient as what a vendor who just does this all day, every day can do.
So how long have y'all been around? How long have y'all been operating?
About a year. I think there was some soft launch clients before that, which is the other thing in firms, we are a new company. I will
I
give them
understand.
that.
Yeah.
It reminds me of, and I'm going to date myself here, Ken, a little bit, but it reminds me of when there was an era of every company wanted to hire a social media manager. And the job post would say, I want someone with 5 to 10 years of social media experience. And it was like, well, Facebook just started 3 years ago. So such a person doesn't exist. It's like what
Yeah.
you want from a vendor. I want someone who is deep AI native, AI engineering based operator. I'm like, well,
Yeah. But I think
most
people,
of these tools aren't that old.
and,
So
and I think people need to know, and maybe I'm wrong, and I'll go ahead and ask you, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but y'all have got some money from investors. I mean, you're not just a little mom and pop store, if I'm,
no.
but y'all have got some big money behind you, right?
That's right. Yes, Sequoia Ventures Red Point just raised a Series A of $20 million, which is great. And I mean, and this is still just the beginning, right? So I empathize with that concern, new company, but it's a new world. You need new tools, delivering service in a new way, I think, to stay competitive.
Yeah, it's things have definitely changed in the last 2 years, I would say, and it's going to change more in the next 2 years, in my opinion. You're seeing a
100%.
lot of different things. These equity companies are looking at what your cost is when they try to buy firms and different things. And,
Yes.
I talked to the guy that kind of analyzed this, and they're looking at how many man hours are you actually putting on a case? Are you touching, and versus, and they're looking at that as part of the equation of how much they're going to pay you for your firm because
Yes.
they want, you want to give good client service, but they want it lean and mean, right?
Yes, of course. So I actually also advise PE funds that are trying to understand this space and what to make of all these firms and how to measure performance. And I mean, it's a very interesting time for our industry, both because of the entrance of private equity, which is just going to change the whole game, and because, the good news is this area of law, it behooves us and benefits us to deploy technology because the more efficient we can be, the more money we can make. Most areas of law really are struggling with the billable hour and what do I do if I don't need as many hours to do the work I used to do. We don't suffer from that problem. So that's the good news. The bad news is it's a lot of disruption happening all at once.
Yeah,
And firms need to start really making decisions if they're interested in an exit, and I think all firms should at least consider it, of how they want to think about the next maybe 2 years of performance and how they want the firm to look to potential investors. So do
yeah,
you want to be spending and investing? I would pose investing more money now towards growth so that your P&L 2 to 3 years from now, when you're starting to float around a pitch deck about your firm, has both a trajectory of growth, but is starting to recover those margins. Because
right.
usually spending the marketing dollars today yields revenue in 2 years, but you're going to see a lot of margin compression in the short term to fuel that expansion in the mid and long term. And how do you save money? Well, one way to maybe do it is if your internal case cost is about 3 grand and instead it could be a grand, that's a lot of cash you could redeploy into marketing that then ends up with books that look fundamentally different in 2 or 3 years than maybe what you have
Yeah.
today.
That's kind of what we're trying to tell our members. And I keep referring to the mastermind because I've been doing them for like 3 weeks now. So it's in my brain, right? It's like a song. I can't get it out. But that's another thing. I mean, you've got And what we're pushing is to get your labor costs down because you're going to need that extra money to go put in marketing because of all this consolidation and the Jim Morgans and the Sweet James. They're coming. They're already there in most areas, but it's not going to get better. It's going to get worse. So you're going to have to
Yes,
spend more on marketing just to stay where you are.
that's right.
And where you going to get it. And that's the only place to get it from. Either get it from your pocket or get it from cutting your labor costs.
That's right.
That's it.
Right. I mean, I think we're all experiencing the growth in CPA has just been crazy like the last 6 months.
Yeah.
Like you say, this is just the beginning. It's the beginning of consolidation starting to make those cost per clicks and cost per acquisition costs go up.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. And I don't know. I just think it's, as you said, it's an interesting time in this industry. And I've been in it since 1982, 44 years. You're talking about John Morgan. I met him in 96. Went down there and spent 3 days with him when he had about 20 lawyers.
Wow.
Yeah. And I knew him when, all right? When he was only making $4 or $5 million a year, not hundreds of millions. You know, I knew him when he was poor at 5 million a year. Yeah.
He's lovely. He's a
Yeah.
great guy.
Oh yeah. I know him well. Anyway, so anything I should have asked you that I didn't ask you, I think I asked most everything, but I usually leave something out. Anything I
Well,
should have asked that I didn't?
I think the one thing is, as I've gotten to know the Finch operation more and the firms, our client firms that we serve, there's a couple different flavors of firms that find us really useful, right? So where is Finch relevant? And, of course, I'd love to say it's everywhere for everyone and everyone needs us. But there's a couple of kind of archetypes I think that are common where have, the most impact. One is a high growth firm, right? So they want to open in new states. They want to put in a bunch of more money in marketing, which yields kind of lumpy and uncertain volume growth. And so before you go open a new office in Nevada and hire a bunch of people in anticipation of volume that may or may not show up, we provide a really easy way for you to focus on marketing and growth and kind of feeling out a new market and knowing that you have this capacity and you're only paying for what you end up needing, not paying up front for a office lease for 10 years, hoping a state's going to pan out. So
Right.
there's like the growth flavor where we can be incredibly helpful because you focus on the marketing and the generating, whatever comes out of it, we'll handle for you and we'll scale so you don't have to worry about it and you don't have to have all the upfront overhead of it. There is also kind of the high value lit firm. And it's like the reality is to generate high value files, you end up generating a mix of files. And sometimes firms will they'll send us the policy minimum cases and say, okay, we'll let you guys, or we'll trust you, or at least, early days, trust you with these low policy level cases or low injury cases that you can help us work up quickly and resolve quickly so we can focus our attention on our lit inventory or our high value files or the managing partner who says something like, I miss being in trial. Like we're a great answer for that because again, having run pre-suit, when 90% of your firm's volume is pre-suit volume, it's really hard not to have to
Yeah.
shift all of your attention to that volume, even though you know that your whole year is going to be made off that other 10% of volume, which you then chronically don't pay attention to. So that's another type of, more of a lit oriented firm or a firm that wants to focus on its trucking inventory and not the rest of the volume. We can be really helpful. And the third is firms that are having margin problems, right? Like you're saying, if you have a cost problem and your margins eroding, your marketing costs are going up, and you're trying to figure out how to save money, for a lot of firms, we're just a cheaper way to handle that inventory. So there's a kind of margin cost story, or I just need my time on desk to get better. I don't have a COO that I think can roll out a whole multi-year performance transformation and turn this around and accelerate time on desk and do it cheaper and using offshore and tools and automation and all the stuff. We can basically just be your fractional COO who knows how to make things efficient and cost effective. So those, and very different kind of law firms are in different places and their goals are different and their challenges are a little different. But those are kind of three areas or archetypes. So if any of those resonate with folks that are listening, or I think of those as like pretty classic use cases for where Finch can show up and make a big difference.
I did think of one more question, and this is
Yeah.
a real little question. It's not a great question, but so when you sign up for this contract, do you prepay or do you pay at the end of the case, at the beginning of the case?
We do get paid up front. I think,
That would be the Dell computer.
yes.
That's
Not
how,
quite as good as the Dell model. We don't get the full banking benefit, but we do charge per case up front. That
yeah.
said, our terms also allow for if a case, if you turn down a case in 2 weeks, then we kind of prorate that and credit part of that fee back to you. So we don't charge a flat fee regardless of what happens to the case. If it doesn't survive to demand, we don't charge you the full fee.
Okay. Yeah. But that would make good business sense on your part. I was reading this book one time about how Dell turned his computer company around because he didn't start building the computers till he was paid in full.
Yep.
And that turned his
Yes.
cash flow all the way around and it made him, and that put him on the map. I mean, that was the
100%. I mean,
save.
it's mostly what made them successful was just the payment terms.
Yeah.
100%. So yeah, ours again aren't that we don't say, hey, we're gonna have this contract with you for a year and why don't you pay us the full year's worth up front? It's not quite as good as the Dell model. We do charge up front.
Okay. Good deal. And if somebody wants to know more, how can they find out more?
You can email me, blair@finchlegal.com, or of course, go to our website and you can request a demo.
All right.
Love
Thank
to
you.
show folks more. Thank you
Yeah,
so much,
thank you.
Ken.
No, thank you. Until next time, this is Ken Hardison, dedicated to your success.
You have been listening to the Grow Your Law Firm podcast, the podcast that leads lawyers to more growth, profit, and freedom. Go to growyourlawfirm.com to find more ways to market and manage your law firm. Please leave us a rating and review wherever you listen to your podcasts.